Hey movie fans, there are some excellent movies coming to Pluto TV for Pluto TV's Summer of Cinema. And as a big fan of science fiction movies, if you haven't seen these sci-fi movies streaming on Pluto TV yet, they should absolutely be at the top of your watch list. First up is Christopher Nolan's spectacular science fiction masterpiece, Interstellar. Back in 2014, Christopher Nolan took all this theoretical science around black holes and wormholes and turned it not just into this exciting story about space and interdimensional travel, but also a story about love and how we communicate with those that we love. And it turned out to be one of the most emotional science fiction movies of the 21st century. It's not just the mind-bending visuals that make Interstellar so impressive, it's the idea that love, this seemingly unquantifiable thing, can transcend space and time. The cast is excellent, with Matthew McConaughey delivering what might be his best performance of his career, but right up there with him is Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Casey Affleck, John Lithgow, Michael Caine. And one of the most mind-blowing things about Interstellar is that the dedication to accuracy was so great that Christopher Nolan went out and got physicist Kip Thorne to help with the physics of the movie. And the work on this movie was done so well that there were actual academic papers written about what they found out about black holes and gravitational lensing in the process of making this movie. Like, this movie literally was changing science. It's simply a must watch. Also streaming on Pluto TV is Terminator 2. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is not just a sci-fi film. This is not just a sequel. This is one of the greatest sci-fi movies and one of the best sequels of all time. Over a decade after the events of the first Terminator movie, where Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor survived her first run-in with Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-100, Judgment Day follows her son, John Connor, being the target of a new Terminator, the T-1000. And the genius of Judgment Day is that it really can stand alone on its own. It's still a great movie if you haven't seen the first one. In fact, for a lot of us, this was our first Terminator movie. In fact, this was my first Terminator movie. And so if you haven't seen the first one, you can jump right in with Terminator 2 and you'll feel right at home. And it has it all: excitement, the right amount of comedy, great performances, and some of the best action set pieces, not just of the 90s, but in all of action movie history. It's kind of crazy when you find out some of the ways in which the actors in this movie dedicated themselves to their characters. Robert Patrick, who plays the T-1000, he practiced shooting his guns without blinking because he thought that it made his Terminator look more menacing, and honestly, he's 100% right. Again, if you haven't seen this movie, you're gonna love it. The four sequels after that have all tried to do different things, but for my money, 2019's Terminator Dark Fate is the one that is probably the best follow-up to Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And it's streaming on Pluto TV. Dark Fate acts as a direct sequel to Terminator 2, ignoring all the messy timelines of all the other movies. James Cameron returns to produce and helps craft this story, and brings back Linda Hamilton as a hardened Sarah Connor, introduces a new generation of characters who I think actually work pretty well, and it takes the Terminator franchise in a direction that I think it kind of needed to go if it's ever going to continue. Dark Fate is this intense, brutal action movie that I think, for the most part, lives up to the legacy of those first two movies, even if it didn't make $1 billion. Also streaming on Pluto TV is The Fifth Element. You know, sometimes you watch a movie and you think to yourself, man, they just don't make them like this anymore. When you watch The Fifth Element, that's the thought you're gonna have through most of that movie. The Fifth Element is this head trip science fiction space opera that follows a flying taxi driver played by Bruce Willis after he gets thrust into a mess of intergalactic proportions when he meets a strange woman named Lilu, who might be the key to saving Earth from total destruction. It's stylish, loud, and totally original, and it has a stellar cast: Mila Jovovich, Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, Chris Tucker. Again, this movie feels very original. It feels like a truly realized vision of science fiction, unlike anything that you have seen in the last 15-20 years. And it's really impressive to see a unique vision like this come to the screen. And the fact that it's streaming for free on Pluto TV means, like, you should not be missing this one. I think maybe we were a little too hard on Stealth when it came out 20 years ago, and with it coming to Pluto TV, I think that it's probably a good time for us to rewatch and reevaluate this movie a little bit. Stealth follows a group of Navy fighter pilots who are assigned the job to help train an unmanned AI fighter jet to hit all of its targets. And I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a great idea. What could go wrong? Well, after a lightning strike hits the plane and rewires its AI, things go completely haywire, and it's up to the team to stop the plane before it's too late. The film stars Josh Lucas, Jessica Biel, and Jamie Foxx, but this really is 2000s action cinema cheese at its finest. And while I know this is not the best movie, I do think that it's kind of an interesting look into how we were reviewing AI. Like, was Stealth really this prophetic film 20 years ago about the dangers of AI? Who knows? I mean, I think it's a great time for us to re-examine its place. Or maybe it's still just a bonkers action movie. Who honestly can tell? Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan is not just the best Star Trek movie, but it is one of the best sequels of all time. And it is warping onto Pluto TV this month, and that means you absolutely need to check this movie out if you have not seen it yet. Aging legends and ego and legacy and consequences. It's this like huge Shakespearean story played out with Star Trek. It's got Ricardo Montalban giving one of the most iconic villain performances ever, and the original crew of the Enterprise giving some of their best work. And it gave us some of the most iconic moments in all of Star Trek, so iconic that other franchises have been borrowing these moments from The Wrath of Khan for years. And you don't even need to be a diehard Star Trek fan to love this movie. It's just a damn good sci-fi movie. If Wrath of Khan is the best original Enterprise crew Star Trek movie, then the best movie from the next generation is Star Trek First Contact. It's got literally everything you could want in a great science fiction movie. And it's streaming on Pluto TV. It's got the biotech aliens, the Borg, it's got time travel, it's got Patrick Stewart's Captain Picard, it's got James Cromwell in a funny hat. It's not often that a studio mandated element for a movie ends up actually working, but the studio really wanted time travel, and you know what? They nailed it with this one. Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation and in this movie, follows in the footsteps of past Enterprise crew actors like Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, and ends up taking the helm directing this movie. It really is a fantastic movie. Even if you're not a Star Trek fan, I think you'll like this one. If Wrath of Khan and First Contact aren't your cup of tea, 2009 Star Trek is also coming to Pluto TV this month, and this thing will rock your socks off. J.J. Abrams walks this tightrope act in this movie of not just creating a movie that's satisfying for longtime Star Trek fans, but also creating something that is exciting for new fans, people who have never seen a Star Trek movie before. This movie is awesome. And the cast is insane. Chris Pine, John Cho, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana. Action's electric, the pacing is tight, the film looks incredible. I think it's funny, actually, that during production, they consulted with a physicist to make sure that the science was actually plausible whenever possible in a Star Trek movie. But honestly, what do I know? If you've ever thought to yourself, Star Trek, that looks kind of slow for me, I don't know if I'm interested, definitely check this one out. This one is much more fast-paced, has a much more modern blockbuster feel to it. I think you'll dig it. I think that Michael Bay's Transformers changed my brain chemistry because that movie meant the world to me. And honestly, I would say that it still does. This is such a big movie that if you haven't seen it to this point, honestly, it's too big to miss. Watch it on Pluto TV this month. Transformers takes the 80s cartoon and turns it into this epic, cinematic, and at the time, honestly, technologically jaw-dropping spectacle. Steven Spielberg is a producer on the movie, and he helped bring the heart to it by pushing for this movie to focus on a boy in his car. Michael Bay brought the boom with literally everything else. There's something magical about the scene where the Autobots come from outer space and are landing kind of all throughout the town. And you have Steve Jablonsky's score that's playing over it, and it just feels like gods coming to Earth, and you just can't help but get goosebumps watching it. I get goosebumps thinking about it. What makes sci-fi great isn't just the spectacle, it's the way that it makes us ask questions. It makes us ask the question of what if? What if giant robots came out of the sky? What if aliens invaded my neighborhood? What if time travel and space travel was possible and I could communicate across dimensions with the power of my love? Thanks for sticking around while I talk about some of these great science fiction movies that you honestly should not be missing. Let me know, have you seen all these movies? And if not, what's the one that you plan on watching this month? Remember, you can check out all these movies on Pluto TV. You can stream all of them for free. Go check them out because I love these movies. Keep watching great movies, and I'll see you next time.